Ooh, ah, ah, ah. Hi. Some of you are asking yourselves right now, Chris, isn't it Saturday? I think it is, but it's been a week, right? So here we are. Welcome to the stream. So this week has been a week of, being in Toronto for the seminar that my partner had to attend, and it was a lot of fun. There was some good people there, and I got some opportunities to cough. There you go. Redo. Yeah. Anyways, hey. No, I just something went down the wrong pipe. All right. Hi again. Okay, so we're back from Toronto. Toronto was super fun. It was a lot of cool stuff going on. There's a couple opportunities that I had to go and do a few different things. I have a first part of a slideshow for you, but did some work while I was there. Showed some of the stuff that I picked up on the stream that I posted Thursday. This is the page that I posted just before. Like I did it the night before we left, so I'd done so that it would post on the Wednesday and on Instagram and Facebook. I posted a stream on Thursday because Wednesday was largely traveling. Our train was an hour and a half late getting into Toronto, so which is fine. And then just busy running around. I walked more in 2 days than I think I've walked in too long. So because where I was about 14 blocks away from one of the bookstore I went to, and it was about 8 blocks, 12 blocks, 8, I guess probably about 10 or 12 blocks away from the art store. So, but then when I went to the bookstore that I intended to go to, I overshot it by 6 blocks because I went to a wrong location, a location that wasn't open. So anyways, I'll tell you about that in a minute. I didn't take a photo of the bookstore. I'll tell you why. But I met some cool people in it. So this is the page that I did for Wednesday. This is the, hey, who's got 2 thumbs in the thumbless world? This guy, right? This is a suggestion from Josh Campbell. And so, it ends with all these thumbless people trying to beat him up. What a jerk. Just a silly, fun page. And then I'd also got this much done on other pages because the challenge is I'm still putting things together from the drawings and that I've done and the testing out new medium that I picked up from the last couple days while in transit. So I have yet to do the finishes on these pages, but sneak peek time. I'll be starting to post these today. This is the humans page that I had planned to post on Thursday, but again, there's no text. And this is a number of different stamped images off of the same lino cut stamp that I made for a stamp swap event recently. And that's the second panel. It's actually the actual stamp scanned. But so there's text to go over top of this, but there's also 2 bottom overlap images that'll be going on top of, like overlapping the panels like I do sometimes, where I'll have an image that just floats over the principal background of images or panels. So I'll be getting those scanned and put in. And then this is the It's All Junk page from the 1-page suggestion of that's very nice of Rachel. Thank you. Rachel says it's great tonal shading. Yeah. It's called a sunburn. No, he meant the drawing. I get that. But I got a sunburn. I didn't get a sunburn from running around all these blocks and blocks and blocks in the city. I got a sunburn because on Friday, the checkout time was 12, but the conference was until 3:30. And so I picked up lunch and sat in the harbor front. I sat right on the harbor front, and I've got a picture from that in the slideshow. And I sat on the grass and drew, and got to just engage in that. Sat in the shade, and despite being in the shade, I got a bit of a sunburn on my face and my arms. So not too bad. I got away pretty scot-free, but considering how many open concrete street blocks I walked on, you'd think I'd be beet red. The trick is stay in the shadows. Anyways, so this is page 1 of It's All Junk. The suggestion being we finally find alien culture or alien technology, but it turns out it's just junk. It's just leftover junk from them. So that's what this page is. So you can see that I got the first image scanned and framed, and I'll show you this. Cut to this shot. This is the original for that. So, you know, it's a little mixed media in there, trying out some different things, right? But a lot of this stenciling outline from priming some cards, right? Oh, it matches up. Secret of the Universe. I did that on this piece of paper and then just drew over top of it. Because, you know, why waste the paper just because you used it for to keep your desk clean? So that's what that is. And here is some of the other stuff that I've done. This is the two thumbs. These are all done on cards. And it just says most visitors to Toronto have a sunburn on the roof of their mouths from looking up at the high rises. Oh, wouldn't it be on their tongue too? Wow. So this is the page. This is just, I think I've shown these. This is just some of the recent pages that I've been doing. I don't know if I think I've shown all these ones anyhow. But that's the page that I did just before I left. And this is one of the pages that I'm working on. There's a whole bunch here. And then this is another page that I did. This is the page that I drew in China markers. So this is, I found a whole bunch of these suckers at the supply store in Toronto. And so there's 6 different colors. So I bought a few of each one. So, well, at least 2 of each one. And so this being the two thumbs page, so this can all be taken off because they're just cards, right? But no, some of the images overlap. Like this is clearly the same shape. This is the same shape. This is the same shape, right? But there's the spacing between the cards. So, you know, a lot of fun. But this one was this one at this point is let me switch cameras again. So this is It's All Junk is 2 pages, by the way. Sorry. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that I've just got sitting on the page. I don't want to show you yet. It's a secret. And then this is the scanned version of the China marker page that I just showed you. How do you get a fine line with the China marker? 2 ways you can do it. Pay attention to where the sharp edge is at the tip, because let me see how close I can get it to a camera where it shows up in the frame. Nope, that ain't gonna do it. Hang on 1 second. A China marker. So I'll hold it over the white paper. Corbett, just come in. It's been really needy since we did. The cats are really needy since we got home. So this is, you can see how there's the tip at the top of it, but there's also, because of the beveled edge, right, there's all these little tips on the side. So it's just a matter of paying attention where you're making your lines from. Sort of turning it around a line. Here, come on, sit down. Yeah, there you go. All right. So that's how this came about. And then there's a little bit afterwards, like the yellow outline is from this sand-colored Posca paintbrush. And I have been starting to use this Posca brush-tipped paintbrush. Whee! just takes a lot to get the thing going. It really does. You pump in the end of it with your thumb, like so. And no, I'm sorry, I thought the overhead was on. So this is the Posca paintbrush tip, chisel tip, brush tip. Instead of squeezing it or tapping the head of it, you pump the end of it, and then turn the dial here at the top for the flow. But it works like a watercolor paintbrush. So fun in the sun. And then I've been playing with some of these Winsor Newton pigment markers that I got in. These are really nice. All of them on clearance for 50 cents each. Yada yada yada. I haven't used the pastel pencils yet, but I will. What else did I end up getting? I just kept get all the supplies I needed to get, but had a hard time. I had a hard time sort of because I'm cheap, and I have a really hard time finding these things in London, and so the cheap part of me doesn't want to order them online. But here we are. I found a whole bunch of them at the same shop, so yay! Spending bonanza. Thank you. Paying attention may defeat me. Oh, no. Does China marker smear after applying it to the surface of paper? Not really. It's wax. A China marker is just basically a wax pencil. And so one of the things that I do when I'm working, I'll switch this up again, is I will hold a ruler down and have my hand on the ruler as I'm working on the page, so that I'm not smudging or brushing anything. So I'll do that. It's sort of the same way as when you're painting on a canvas, you don't want to put your hand on the surface of the canvas. There's a bludgeon stick. It's like a post that has a balled up, wadded up piece of fabric at the end, and you can rest that, at the top of your canvas, the side of your canvas, whatever it is, and then hold your hand like this as you work. Well, it's the same principle. So, yeah. So that's so this is some of the stuff I got done, and am doing. Picked up some saucy art books that I'm very pleased with, and have them spread around the space already, because I started pouring into them pretty much immediately. But let me switcheroo the old camera too. So I put together a little slideshow, and some of the things, like this is I've taken some shots, and so they'll move through the slideshow, and they may well seem random. Like that's the Ontario College of Art and Design in Toronto, and it's built partially on the building, but partially on these huge pedestals. And so the reason I've taken a lot of these kind of weird shots in Toronto is the real different application of structure that you find in a big city starts to defy, and it's just a cool picture, starts to defy your typical conventions about how to build sky rises and how to build stuff. If you live out in the country, if you live out in a small city, you never really think about the level of that's the art supply store, by the way. You never really think about the level of design that people invest into these buildings. That's the park I was sitting at that I got sunburned at on Friday, where all the ferries come in and out. So that was cool. And this is the Toronto train station. But the point I'm trying to make with some of these pictures is it's not your traditional, here's a place of this, and then I went and did this. I get caught up in the sort of the architecture of things. I get caught up in patterns, and I get caught up in bones. So the way that some of these things come together really sort of makes your head go off in different directions in imagination. And for me, I mean, that's part of the stuff I look for in Toronto. Now, there's lots of pictures that I have of like this nighttime shot of the buildings and stuff that I'm going to incorporate into my work. And so that was a really great resource for me to be able to take a bunch of these pictures, a bunch of shots from the train window of as we're pulling into Toronto for all this different architecture and the support structuring and all those sort of things for these, just the pillared bases as you're driving along in the train for these other larger objects that are being held up. That's the stuff that I find really compelling. And I think that that's the stuff that, to me, I really want to explore more visually. And the next project that I'm working on is set in it's a project I've worked on. I've done 11 comic issues of this series called Elmwood. And so I've started up on Elmwood again, as I'm in the process now of getting it together to publish one-page comic extravaganza, volume deuce. And Elmwood's set in a big city, and so I really want to pump up the different aspects of what makes a big city what it is. And like, there's a thing I watched a video documentary about the structure of this building in Chicago that was made, where because of the accommodation of space and how much it costs for land, and the proximity that this building had to the waterfront, they figured out this incredible design where the base of the building is only so big on the lot that they have. But then as it goes up, it moves out in this massive interlocking embedded girder system that disperses all the weight from the tall structure down into this base. And so you've got 2/3 of the floor that don't have ground underneath them. They're sitting there floating on this triangular shape. And I noticed, and that building was done 10 or 15 years ago, but I've noticed a lot of it in Toronto. Like, it's almost like every new building that's going up takes advantage of that opportunity. So when you see this sort of framework, like on the buildings that are here, in this exposed exterior support framing, these are interesting and dynamic new ways of interpreting how we fabricate buildings and how we put together structures in a city, so it's not all this monotonous box construction. And the problem is, when you grow up in a small city that doesn't really have high rises or skyscrapers, or a small town for that matter, you don't consider those things. You don't think about how buildings work, because especially if you grow up reading comic books, where so many of them are just those boxes. If you're old enough to have read those comics to 50s, 60s, 70s, where that's really how they were depicted. And it wasn't until the 70s, 80s where you started seeing people, rather than short step it, invest that time as fast as they could into the diversity of the buildings as they were starting to be presented more and more then. Because the Empire State Building has this absolutely ornate series of structures and arches and stuff that builds up to the top. And, it's represented like a triangle back in all drawings. So anyway, so this is one of the things that I find interesting about Toronto. And then when you look at the night sky like this, like any other city, any other larger city, what? I know, sit down. So when you look at any large city, you'll see those lights and that whole thing about how the entire dynamic of the city and its design completely changes. It's almost like a reversal. And again, that's another thing that you don't notice unless you live in a major city. Because to me, you look at, it's another way of looking at the structure of a building again, because now you're seeing light extrude out from that building, and it sort of shows the bones, the supports and the bones and the frames of the glass. And as the light pushes out into the dark from that, because a lot of these buildings are very bright. It's a different. It becomes a whole different structure again, but at the same time, it really allows you to see how those buildings are put together. And so I love that as well. We're on the 22nd floor, overlooking a little harbor where the boats came in to take you out to. Toronto has these islands that one of them has the airport on it. And so where we were is where the boats would pick people up and ferry them out to that. And then there were two larger ferry systems that would take people across to the other islands. And there was an amusement something or other on one. We didn't go to the islands, but didn't have the time because it's either a conference for my partner or excursions and trying to get things done for me. Come on, just come up. Just come up. Come on. Corbin is very needy right now. Yeah, so that's fine. That's fine. And so this is the sort of stuff that was going through my head while I was there. And picking up the different medium that I did. And like I've got some linoleum piece. I'll show you just a sec. Yeah. Okay, back up. So this is, I'll switch cameras again. Excuse me. So these are pieces of linoleum that you can see that similar to like the linoleum, the brown linoleum that I picked up in St. Thomas, with the intention of using these to make some images and images that I can incorporate into my work. Come on. He's just spending the entire time tapping me in the shoulder, and I'm sorry for being so distracted. And this is a large piece of pine that's, nice flat piece of wood block in basswood. If you're funky, it's called basswood. And so I'm going to be trimming this down and making a bunch of wood block images in order to incorporate into my work. So, a little bit of fun on the side. And picked up some more inks and found some red ink for one of my fountain pens, and it's a really saucy olive ink here, olive colored, and my favorite color, by the way. And the only eraser I've ever seen. I'm sorry, I don't know if that was even in camera because I got the sliders from other stuff. This is the saucy ink. It's Daler Rowney. And this is the only eraser. I'll put it over here. The only eraser sharpener combination that I've ever seen that has a protector for the eraser. I've never seen that before. Shields up. Anyways, so yeah, it was a good trip overall, and we had a great time, and cool people. Like a bunch of we basically came back with his entire office on the train. And there he is. I got you, you lunatic. Get up there. Maniac you are. Corbin says hi. So, yeah, so it was a train ride, but, a huge amount of the people that went up. There, get it out of your system. So, it was a lot of fun, and we had a good time overall. It's tiring. It's exhausting, especially like for seminars, you're getting all this information thrown at you. So, I mean, that was exhausting for my partner. But at the same time, it's the same thing with me in a different sense, because as I'm going around, I'm trying to do all this sort of, I take mental notes all the time, and I look at how things work, and I sort of track that. Sometimes it takes too long for me to draw things in my sketchbook. And so I'll sit down, like I'll really study something, and that's what gives me the whole crazy artist eye, maybe. But I really try to study things, and then when I get an opportunity to sit down, that's when I'll draw them. So I did a lot of that, and it sort of leaves you kind of feeling a little bewildered and exhausted. And that, and the whole storytelling around you really people watch, and you really look for how the interdynamic works with people, and how they engage with one another, how they engage with their environment, how you know, social types and economic strata types and cultural types, and you just see how this fusion all comes together. And I find that really interesting in a big city. So, yeah, so that's basically what I got up to. And so now I'm in the process of taking this stuff that holy cow, the hair, I'm coated in hair. So that's the gist of it. That's really what I got up to. And now I'm sitting down and working out all these images. And so with some of the stuff that you're seeing in the slideshow, like this OCAD building, I took photos of it because it's nuts. It's architecturally nuts. And the fact that our supply store next door to it says Elegant Victorian Estate House kills me. It just kills me that here these two things are side by side. And if that doesn't represent the diversity of building styles in a large city, I don't know what does. So I got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of stuff to catch up on and get things done. The train ride I took, look at the pattern on the floor. How crazy is that? It's awesome. It's a fantastic floor pattern in those rugs. And I really like that. We had some cool seats, but we were stopped for 2 45-minute periods because of problems on the track. So, it gives you time to look at things. And I did one of the images that I drew was a shot in the train of the chairs, the structures of the chairs. The chair I had was it wouldn't lock. And I don't know if it's because I'm gorilla-sized or if I'd done something wrong, but every time I would move, it would lean back, and I just felt like I'm such a jerk because I was so terrified I'm just hitting the person in front of me, or behind me, I'm sorry. So as soon as that first stop happened, we said, wait, can we switch seats over to there? If that's okay. Oh, yeah, go ahead. And it was like, oh, because, the chair was broken. So, yeah, it was much better over there. We're at the back of the train at that point. And there's never anything wrong with being, 15 steps away from the washroom on a train. Because, it's a human thing. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun in general. And so now I'm at the point of getting some of these images finished, some of these pages finished. But I put together 4 pages while I was in Toronto. So I just got to finish the computer portion of it, where I take all the drawings like this, and I'm putting them together on the page and trimming up the edges and figuring out if there's any modifications or effects or anything I'm doing like that to it. Anyhow, so the reason I posted the pictures that I did for the slideshow is hopefully anybody that might watch this, when you go to a city like Toronto, give yourself that moment. Look around. Pay attention as best you can to the differences. The differences of where you might be. If you're in a big city or if you're in Toronto, you get it. But look for those things. Look for the differences. Look for how the structure of a place and all of its different aspects and its different people can really, really change the headspace. And it should alter the headspace of how you tell stories in an environment like that. Because when you look at the structure of some of these buildings, and when you look at this sort of pancaking of one thing on top of another, or one, like this Victorian art building beside this building that's built on huge pylons, track that stuff, and allow that to stay in your visual library, and when I say your visual library, I'm referring to allow that to sort of stick around in your head so that when you're drawing on, well, how does this work? You can pull that out. Like the image that's here. This is looks like an astronaut, but doesn't look like an astronaut drawing because I didn't look at a picture of an astronaut. This is me sitting on a train. what does an astronaut look like, and just drawing it. So that's because you access that visual library and start thinking about the shape of the helmet. Start thinking about, the backpack they wear, the little pack on the front of them, and the tubes coming in and out. And when you go into your head for those, and you give yourself that moment to sort of recollect those things, think about them as just the fundamental shapes that they are. I think you'll find that once you start putting those basic shapes down of circle, square, triangle, your brain will kick in more, and you'll start remembering better, because the more you do this, the more you attune your visual association like this. So as soon as you start drawing those shapes, ideally and optimally, then you'll start constructing something that is somewhat reminiscent of the real deal. That's why it's important for you to lean on your visual memory, your visual reference, that from recollection and from knowledge and from understanding and comprehension of how things work, far more so than it is just to look up pictures of things to draw. But that takes time, and it takes deliberacy, and it takes repetition. And you develop those neurosynaptic connections in your head the more that you do it. So some people say that there's no way that you can sit down and have a reference library in your head, and it's not true. It's just not true. The more that you draw, the more that you understand things, the more that you remember how this works in correlation with that, the structure of a bicycle or motorcycle is, things like that. The more that you consider all those things as you're drawing, the more that you can access those memories and understandings. It really is just the same as anything else. Practice, practice, practice. Kim Young-gi was a wonderful artist that passed away last year. Challenges with his heart, but he had an absolute fantastic facility for remembering things for him to draw, and remembering, a whole bunch of pigs running through a room, and he would look and he would draw, a ton of pigs running through an office building and upsetting all the office workers, and just these fun and quirky and fantastic images. But he would remember how a desk looks, and the sort of ephemera that's on a desk, and how the pigs look, and how people look when the papers are going in the air. And he would really consider those things. And so as he would be drawing in a brush pen similar to this, but black, and ink, not water based, water-based marker. So it would be an ink pen like this, but he would draw specifically in that. He wouldn't do breakdowns with pencil. And so he could access that in his head. And because of skill and ability and repetition and discipline and sketching and working up and all those things, he could do so in perspective and wonderful. I'm missing stuff, and I'm so sorry, folks. Okay, no, not too far off. Oh, it's hello, Frankly Mapley. Don't be alarmed. It's me, Frankly Mapleton, your son. How you doing, Frank? Hope you've had a good week. You've got, how many sites have you got now? There's Salazar Art Nation, and now you've got Roll for Turaco. Is this your gaming? This must be your gaming site. So, yeah. So, anyways, when you're doing any drawing of anything, allow yourself that, if you can, maintain yourself and stay connected to the world around you and engage in conversation and allowing yourself to experience the joys in existence. But at the same time, keep your eyes open while you do it. Allow yourself the opportunity to think about environment, to think about interesting anecdotal visual images, or if you're a writer, story, a little anecdotal story, bits and bobs that you can lace together. So Frankly says, I've just returned from Toastmasters, and I found out a zine workshop would be on the 24th. Is this at the same place, Frankly? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, there's a zine group in London here that gets together all the time and does tutorials and does zines. And it's quite empowering for people that have an interest in that. And, you know, as from an independent standpoint, if you're doing smaller projects, the zine format is a really approachable one. So yeah, I think you'll enjoy that, frankly. I think you'll enjoy that, frankly. It's funny how many times, because I call Frank Salazar frankly, it's funny how many times that saying frankly actually fits well into the sentence. So, but check out, anybody that has the opportunity, check out Salazar Art Nation and take a look at Frank's work. And he's a good guy. Don't tell him I said that. We meet at the library. The workshop's there. Dun, dun, dun. That's good. That's good stuff. I like that. Toronto, because it's such a major city in Canada, it has I found out some interesting things. Like, one is adjacent to the hotel was the newspaper building in Toronto. And there's supposed to be all these businesses in there. There's supposed to be a publishing house in there. And there's supposed to be a bookstore in there. And I came to understand that none of those businesses or organizations are actually in there. They just use the address, which was hugely disappointing to me. But I was really interested in going to that publishing house and even just getting a tour and seeing, how the donuts get made, right? Frankly says, not only will I be there, I'm teaching it. Corrupting young minds, Frankly Mapleton. That's fun, buddy. Good for you. That's awesome. There's a part of me, it's like, because there's always that level of exhaustion when you get home from traveling. So I was worried that the comic jam that I run each month is Monday, because, I'm still tired now. I mean, I'm yawning a lot, but I'm not actually tired. I'm actually quite engaged, but my body is still going, oh my God, So you sort of get through it. Anyways, I've left the slideshow up just in case anybody takes any inspirato of, the cool boat, the cool Victorian art store, the Victorian era building art store, the train station, the Union Station in Toronto, and its beautiful big windows. I did a panoramic shots of the whole of the course of the great lounge room, and the architecture involved in that is so fantastic. It's very classic, and of course, modern interpretation of Renaissance style, Romanesque style architecture. So I'm engaged. What are you talking about? I probably said I got engaged in the process, as in process. Yeah, I'm married. I am happily married. So, yeah, I just sort of wanted to touch base and say hi to everybody. It's an interesting thing. Did a stream on Tuesday, in transit on Monday, but I posted an image on Who's Got Two Thumbs in the Thumbless World, this guy. But I didn't do a stream on Wednesday. But because of the amount of traveling, not just the traveling to another city, but the traveling around in that city and X amount of time really being in pursuit of art store, in pursuit of objectives and all the information along the way. And I've got tons of pictures of cranes and things like that, right? Frank says he'll let the ladies know that I'm married. More for Frank. Frankly Mapleton, ladies. So because of all that, it feels like it's been longer, right? I've streamed in the hotel on Thursday and just sort of said, look at the ridiculous I've got out of control. Picked up some cool books. If you didn't have an opportunity, check it out. There's a really neat book on facial expressions that I picked up. I think It was the same one that was featured, I think, on Judy Williams' stream recently when she's talking about some books. But I got a great studies book of Glenn Barr's paintings and the sketches for those, and an illustrators magazine with all kinds of stuff on Leyendecker. Look up Leyendecker. Actually, there's two Leyendeckers, or is it the Leyendecker? Yeah, there's two. So I can think of the same. No, there might be two. Yeah, no, it's two Leyendeckers. I'm thinking of Niedermeyer, but I think that's a hockey player. Corbin has been a little interested in attention since I got home. It's either myself or Lori. So, yeah, I'm gonna get cracking on it. I got a whole bunch of stuff that's going in the mail Monday, and to get sent out to a number of people, which is really cool. I really appreciate all the engagement with everybody. It feels nice. It's one thing to produce a whole bunch of stuff. It's another thing to know that there's interest in it. It's a strange thing that it's a strange thing. Like, how many people that design these buildings in Toronto think that some weirdo from a place that's 2 hours away is going to come and get lost in the miasma, like the minutiae of all the things that make up a city. You don't consider a lot of stuff like that when you're making things and designing things and doing things. There's a part of you, I'm sure, that hopes, and there's a part of you that would feel rewarded more that there's a connection to someone, another human being, and it doesn't just facilitate a need. But if you sit down and you just focus on that part, you're never going to truly create authentically. So yeah, I'm always surprised and very appreciative when people say, "Hey, I want to read that." So that's cool. Yeah, well, one more thing. On Friday, as I was sitting in a park, a lady came by, and this always happens, by the way, if you work, if you're sketching in a public place and somebody sees it, there's always an inevitable conversation. Oh yeah, coloring, eh? And this lady came by and she was opening up her sketchbook and showing me. She just drew the faces. Like, she just drew this. Nothing, no shape of the head, no ears, no hairlines, just this. And her whole visual exploration was just people's faces in the side and what you could tell, or what projection she would put into their characters because of that. And she came to chat with me for 45 minutes while I was in the park, and it was interesting. It was a nice lady. It's interesting other people's process and the reason that they do what they do. It's important to remember that we all have our own motivations for what we make images with, and we all need to appreciate that from each other. That I'm never going to be the person that cuts down somebody else's work. If I don't have something nice to say, why bother? That's why I was just compelled by the fact she just drew the faces. And you could tell there's a simulated line. Occasionally you'd see a little line here that would intimate the entire contour of that jaw. And I just, it's funny the things you take away from other people's work. She's clearly trying to identify a sense of humanity and connection in those faces, or trying to, get a sense of self or idealized understanding of others to the self, and just drawing it like that. And I thought I just found that so compelling. And she told me all about JFK. He was an American president, for our Canadian friends that might not know. Corbin didn't know that. Thanks, Corbin. Anything else I can tell you about? Hey, anything else you want to know? No. He says no. Okay. Well, I think, yeah, I think I'm gonna step off and get back to work. And you get home from a trip, you're doing laundry and straightening the house up, and you got meeting animals and all the stuff you got to do that you've been away and not doing. So I'm off to do that. Thanks for everybody that stopped in and visited, and thanks for those engaging in the chat, frankly, and Rachel. And yeah, if you're making things, if you're working on projects that are visually, textually, it's just any kind of storytelling. Frank, that is terrible. That is terrible. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Next thing I know, you're gonna make a suppository joke. The best thing you can do as a visual creator, if you're trying to have even a modicum of representation in your work, is just look at everything around you and just kind of get some notions or some understanding of everything around you and afford yourself that opportunity. There's an awful lot of stories where people are just primarily drawing characters in the foreground with a little bit of background structure. Set everything inside a room, or everything takes place in my backyard, and those things are fine. But the more that you want to have cohesion in your storytelling of the viewer's understanding of the character in relationship to the environment that they're in, you need to look at stuff and practice drawing it and give it a try. It's something that I'm endeavoring to do more and more, and I hope that others are as well. And I hope I get to see it. I hope that you're sharing it out there, and I can come across it and take a look and give you a good old thumbs up, big old heart shape, because that's dialogue in the social media world. So dialogue of support, and you do your best. But all right, I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks everybody for coming out and hanging out. If anybody has any questions, anybody has any one-page comic ideas, feel free to put it in the comments of the video or in the comments on any of the social media posts that I've put out. Go ahead and look through. If you're bored and you've got time on your hands, there's 140 pages of one-page, multi-page comics that I've been posting on Instagram and Facebook since the start of January. So that's a good 100 and some odd little different adventures for you to engage in, for whether it's a brief one of one page. There's one that's 6 pages, a couple of little bit longer ones, a number 2-page ones. But yeah, if you need something to do, feel free to roll on through there and let me know what you think. I appreciate that. Otherwise, I will be back on Monday at 2:00. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you get some chance to express yourself creatively. And I'll see you on Monday. Bye for now.